Welcome everyone to English Grammar Topics. Today's talk is about noun clauses. We'll make a start with the definition of a clause. What is a clause? A clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb. It is divided into an independent clause, which is a main clause, and a dependent clause, which is a subordinate clause. It is not main. An independent clause is a complete sentence, while a dependent clause is not a complete sentence. In other words, it must be connected to an independent clause. So the dependent clause cannot be used alone. It must be connected to a main clause or an independent clause. For example, Jane lives in Paris. So this is an independent clause. It is a statement. The other one, where does she live? This is again an independent clause, but it is a question. So let's have a look at this sentence. Where she lives. This is a dependent clause, so it is not an independent clause. But how can we use it with an independent clause? Have a look. I know where she lives. So in this sentence we have I know as an independent clause, and where she lives is a dependent clause, which is here cannot be used alone. It must be connected to an independent clause, to a main clause. That's why a dependent clause is called a subordinate clause, a secondary clause. It cannot be used alone. It should be used with a main clause to complete the meaning of a sentence. So this dependent clause is called a noun clause, which is the main topic of this unit or of this talk. So let's move to another slide. What is a noun clause? A noun clause is a clause that is used as a subject or as an object. For example, what he said was interesting. I heard what he said. So here, in these two sentences, we have the same noun clauses. What he said in the first one and what he said in the second one. And the first one is used as a subject, while in the second one is used as an object. So both these two noun clauses are dependent clauses, but their functions are different. So we can use a noun clause either as a subject or an object. So a noun clause can begin with a that clause, a WH word, or if and whether clause. Let's begin with the first one, that clauses. It is a clause that begins with that. So we use that to introduce that clauses. For example, we know that the world is round. I think that he is a good actor. So in these two sentences, we have the underlying noun clauses. The world is round and he is a good actor. Both are noun clauses preceded by the word that. And the first one, that, is optional. That's why it is used between the brackets. So here, these two noun clauses, or these two that clauses, are what? Are objects. Another example, that the word is round is a fact. Here, that clause comes at the beginning of the sentence. So it is what? It is the subject of that sentence. So as you see, that clause can be used either as an object or as a subject. Moving on to the second type, which is WH clauses. It's a clause that begins with the WH word. Let's first of all have a look at this sentence. Where is she? This is an independent clause. It is a main clause. It's a question. Why? Because the verb precedes the subject. So in order to change this independent clause into a dependent clause, we need this sentence. For example, I don't know where she is. Now where she is a dependent clause. It's a noun clause. Why? Because the subject precedes the verb, and the clause I don't know is an independent clause. It's a main clause. So where she is cannot be used alone. It should be connected to a main clause, to an independent clause, as this sentence shows. So where she is a WH clause. It's a noun clause that begins with a WH word. However, you need to pay attention that we cannot have such a sentence. I don't know where is she. So this sentence is incorrect. Why? Because we have the verb before the subject and there is a question mark. So we cannot use such a sentence in this case. So try to pay attention to such incorrect clauses. A WH clause can also be used either as a subject or as an object. For example, what he said surprised me. So what he said here is a WH clause. It's a subject. While the second one, I don't know what he said. The same clause, what he said, is used as an object. So a WH clause can be used either as a subject or as an object. So let's have a look at this sentence. When does she arrive? When does she arrive is an independent clause. Why? We have the subject, the auxiliary does before the subject she. So in order to change it into a dependent clause, we need such a sentence. For example, you know when she arrives. So when she arrives here is a dependent clause. And what do we have? We have the subject she and then the verb arrives. And if you pay attention, the auxiliary does is deleted from the sentence and we added third person as to the verb arrive. What about the question mark? This is not for when she arrives. It is for do you know? Yes, no question. So try to pay attention to this structure. So do you know is an independent clause, while when she arrives is a dependent clause. It's a noun clause by itself. Moving on to the third type, which is if clauses. It is a clause that begins with if or whether. Both are the same. There is no difference between them. When a yes no question is changed to a noun clause, we use whether or if to introduce the clause, to introduce a noun clause. For example, are they coming? So this is an independent clause. It's a question. It's a main clause. Why? We have the auxiliary comes before the subject they, and there is a question mark. So in order to change it into a dependent clause, we need to introduce this clause with if. I wonder if they are coming. So if they are coming is a dependent clause. It begins with if. Why? Because the original sentence, which is a clause, is a yes no question that begins with an auxiliary. So we need in this case to add either if or whether to make a dependent clause. Hope it's clear about this type and the other three clauses. Let me concentrate on another topic in this unit, noun clauses after empty subject it. The subject pronoun it is called empty. Why? Because it doesn't refer to anything in particular. We talked in the previous slides that a noun clause can begin with that, WH, or if clauses, as in the following sentence. What he said was true. What he said is a noun clause subject. It is a WH clause. Why? Because the clause begins with a WH word. So how can we add it then to this sentence? We can usually use it as an empty subject and then put the noun clause that begins with any of these, that begins with that WH word or if at the end of the sentence, as in the following one. It was true what he said. We put it at the beginning and then put then was true, the main verb in the previous sentence, in the main sentence, and then complete the sentence with the noun clause that begins with WH word. It was true what he said. So here we have it as an empty subject. Another sentence. Whether you go now or later doesn't really matter. This clause begins with whether. Now we need to add the empty subject it to this sentence. How can we do it? We put first it, as I said, at the beginning of the sentence, and then put the main verb in the first sentence with the complement. Doesn't really matter. At the end, we can move the clause at the end of the sentence. What do you have here? We have a whether clause, as you see here. So here it is an empty subject. However, We cannot use if in a noun clause subject. So we cannot say if you go now or later doesn't really matter. So this is not grammatical. So this is the only exception in this structure. We cannot begin the clause as a noun clause subject with if. Just pay attention to this point. The last topic I want to concentrate on in this talk is the difference between a noun clause and a noun phrase. I assume you have an idea about the difference between these two items. So let's start with the first one, which is the noun clause. It's a group of words that contains a subject and a verb, but it's not a complete sentence. It should be connected to another clause, to a main clause, to have a grammatical sentence. While a noun phrase is also a group of words, but doesn't contain any subjects or any verbs. So let's have a look at some examples for each one of them. He told me where Tom went. Where Tom went is a noun clause object. It's a WH clause that begins with a WH word. The same clause can also be used at the beginning of the sentence to function as a subject. Where he went doesn't make that difference. So where he went is a noun clause subject. So in these two sentences we have the same noun clause, but in the first one it functions as an object, while in the second it functions as a subject. Let's have a look at other examples about noun phrases. He told me his story. His story is a noun phrase object. His story doesn't contain any subject or any verb. It is just a group of words, just two words here, but it functions as an object. The same phrase can also be used as a subject, as in the following sentence. His story was interesting. Now his story is a noun phrase subject. As you see, we have the same noun phrase, but in the first one it functions as an object, while in the second it functions as a subject. So this is the end of this talk. I wish that this topic is quite clear, and if you have any questions, you can post them in the streaming section in the Google Classroom. Thank you very much indeed for your listening.